Good afternoon. My name is Dio Gunyami, the president of Global Lawyers of Canada, Calgary chapter. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this webinar on the modernization of technology in legal practice, which we have organized in partnership with Epic Global. GLC is a national professional association that seeks to promote a diverse and competitive legal market in Canada by representing and supporting internationally trained and globally minded lawyers through advocacy, community engagement, and professional development. This webinar is one of our ways of contributing to the global discourse on the intersection between law and technology. And as we all know, a lot has changed in the past year, and the impact of technology on the legal world and practice has been undeniable, especially given the current global pandemic. Technology isn't merely changing the legal industry, it is actually transforming what it means to practice law today. And given this reality, we, in partnership with Epic, have organized this event to join the conversation and the discussion, and to learn more about how technology is transforming law practice. And on behalf of the GLC boards across Canada and our members, I would like to thank our panelists and the moderator for honoring the invitation to join us today. And I'm quite sure that we'll have a great time here today. And that being said, I would now like to hand over to Tiana Robinson, Epic's Senior Director of Business Development, Canada and Latin America. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, and and thanks to everybody for joining us. I was delighted to see that we have well over 100 people registered for today's program, so it's definitely a topic of interest. I'm Tiana Robinson. I'm a Senior Director at Epic Canada. And just by way of background, Epic is a leading global provider of e-discovery and litigation support, integrated technology and services for the legal industry. We have a team of over 7,000 people in 18 countries and support leading law firms and corporations in Canada and around the world. We're delighted to partner with Global Lawyers Canada to bring you today's webinar where we're going to discuss the continued growth in the legal technology sector and how this is augmenting and modernizing the practice of law. Now, the developments, as Dio mentioned, in the legal industry are continuous. So the panel is going to spend some time today discussing the impact of these developments and generally the intersection of legal and technology. Now, we have left some time at the end of the presentation for Q&A, but please feel free to put your questions in the chat function. We'll monitor it throughout. And if there are questions that are relevant to a certain topic that we're discussing, we'll ask them then and there. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Professor Gideon from the University of Calgary, who will moderate today's panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tiana, for the introduction, and it's my pleasure. I also want to thank the audience for taking time off their busy schedule to attend the Global Lawyers of Canada webinar on modernization of technology in legal practice. My name is Professor Gideon Christian, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Calgary Faculty of Law, where I research on legal technology, artificial intelligence, and law. I will be moderating this discussion today. One of the positive impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the legal profession is the fact that it has forced the profession to make progress in modernization and adoption of legal technology in legal practice. And within the past 19 months, the profession has witnessed adoption of technology, or adoption of legal technology in the profession has spiked exponentially, creating opportunities for increased efficiency and, of course, smarter decision making. So today I have with me a panel of experts who will be discussing the current trends in modernization of technology in legal practice. So let me quickly introduce the panel, or rather, let me ask the panelists to introduce themselves to the audience. So why don't we start with you, Lady Elizabeth?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So my name is Libby Evans, or Elizabeth Evans. I'm a lawyer. I started in private practice over 20 years ago. I joined TD Bank about 18 years ago. I practiced for a long time. I practiced outsourcing and software license, and I advised on contract law. But throughout my practice, I was always interested in knowledge management and really all things process improvement, including through the use of technology. a few years ago at TD Legal, we were launching a matter management system, and I was asked if I wanted to lead that project, and I did, and I led it, and I rebranded it a matter and knowledge management platform, and as luck would have it, we launched that platform in about February of 2020. So that was very lucky. And then today I lead a really strong team of what I call knowledge management and strategic enablement, which is probably a group that's traditionally known as legal ops in other organizations.
Thank you very much, Libby. Kajal.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kajal Irfan, and I'm a partner at JSS Barristers in Calgary, Alberta. JSS is a litigation advocacy firm, and so we provide services to our clients, whether individuals or corporations across the world. My particular practice area is focused on complex litigation, so it's usually very document intensive, research intensive matters that involve pretty complex matters, and so as a result, I've really gotten quite involved in the technology aspect of it, because when you're dealing with very complex matters, you often are dealing with a lot of whether it's clients across the country, the world, lots of documents. And so trying to utilize technology to be able to best serve our clients and provide services in the most efficient way really is a priority for me. And so I've actually had the opportunity to work with Epic quite closely over the last number of years in respect of providing services to our clients. And so I do think it's important that all lawyers are familiar with this new technology, because it's certainly the way the future is going.
Thank you very much, Kajal. And Julie?
Thank you. So I started my career as a financial services lawyer at Osler, and for the last 5 of those 20 years there, I specialized in knowledge management. This will sound a little bit like Libby's story in some ways. Then I took knowledge management in-house and was at BMO for a little over 10 years, 7 of which as Deputy General Counsel and Chief Knowledge Officer. So my last role there was as DGC responsible for the bank's Canadian personal and commercial businesses, so branches, credit cards, commercial loans, and so on. But when I retired from the bank at the end of 2019, I started my own advisory business, providing support to GCs in legal operations and other related initiatives, because I really wanted to go back to what I loved most, which is that intersection between technology and law, and how knowledge management bridges risk management and productivity and efficiency. So that's why I'm on the panel today.
Thank you very much, Julie. I see a great deal of similarity, like you noted, between you and Libby, which is very good. And Tiana.
Thank you very much, Gideon. So I am the Senior Director of in Calgary for Epic, and my end up in the e-discovery space actually comes out of a kinesiology degree, and then taking a summer job at a law firm. And what happened is that the scientific mind that was buried inside my head landed in this space and landed in litigation, and found a passion and a calling for this kind of data science. And so over the years, after 15 years in the litigation space, I actually moved into the vendor space over at Epic. And my focus is on strategic development of, workflows and methodologies, and finding operational efficiencies for clients, and making sure that, we've got defensible practices in place, as well as leading teams who deliver on all of the various technology offerings that we have.
Thank you very much, Tiana, and thank you all to all members of the panel for accepting the invitation, and also, for being here today to share your wealth of knowledge in diverse and various areas of legal technology. So I'm probably going to kick off this conversation by, asking a question, and I'm going to start with you, Kajal. At the introduction, of course, I've made reference to progress being made in the adoption of legal technology. Now, the question I want to ask you is this: what do you think is the key driving force? What is really driving lawyers and legal department to modernize and transform, notwithstanding the conservative nature of the legal profession? What do you see as a driving factor that is motivating or driving lawyers and legal departments to modernize and transform?
Yeah, so I guess depending on who's answering the question, I suspect it changes. From a private practice perspective, of course, our entire business model is driven around client services and being able to provide our clients with the best service, and that includes being efficient in what we do, providing the best legal representation at the most cost-effective means. And so technology provides opportunities to deliver on those objectives in ways that just haven't been achievable before. Using a really basic example, the legal practice in Canada is driven by the common law. So we learn from previous cases that have been decided throughout Canada, in some cases other jurisdictions across the world, our legislation, our statutes. And so that requires lawyers to be extremely familiar and up to date with the leading cases, the legislation that's coming. And that, of course, daily. There's hundreds of cases that are being released across the country. Years ago, that would have required somebody to sit in a law library and wait potentially weeks or months before these cases became available to the lawyers. With basic legal databases and legal directories, we're able to be on top of the case, within split seconds of it being released. And that allows us to provide the best legal services to our client. It also allows us to do so at a very cost-effective means. One of the other things that's really important for us is mobility. Of course, especially with COVID, we're providing services constantly, across the board to our, and we can't travel to see our clients oftentimes. So our clients may be, in Asia or in Europe or in the United States. And so we have to be able to still provide those services seamlessly. And so using technology in an effort to provide documents or to meet is something that certainly law firms have had to develop quite rapidly over the last couple of years, or the last 18 months essentially. One of the other things that I think is really important is attracting talent. New lawyers up and coming, they want to go to the firms that have the best technology and have access to the best technology and are really forward thinking in the way that we're providing services to our clients. And so as a firm, we need to make sure that we're up to date on the best technology so that we can also attract new students, lawyers from other jurisdictions coming in and show them that we have the best and the most up-to-date technology to deliver to our clients. And I guess one other example that really hits it has been really helpful to my firm is using cloud-based technology. Previously we have servers and of course as a firm, we have a lot of documents. So internal documents that are generated internally, documents from clients, so document management systems. We have a completely cloud-based system now. So regardless of where the lawyer is, whether they are at home or in the office or at a client's office or on vacation, we're able to have access to all the documents, or whether you're in court, for example. That's another thing. Almost all of our hearings and trials, for the most part, are now happening virtually. So we need to have the means to be able to deliver those services and do our job using all these technological advancements.
Thank you very much, Kajal. So it's very obvious. Improved efficiency and productivity, as well as meeting client need, it's one of the driving force, at least from your perspective as a practicing lawyer. Now let's turn to Libby. Let's get your thoughts on this at least from the perspective of an expert in legal knowledge management.
Sure. Yeah, and so from an in-house perspective, I think that a lot of those same considerations apply. Of course, it's we're always being challenged to do more with less, and efficiency is a big game, and talent, absolutely. But I actually think from an in-house perspective, one of the key drivers is just really where we sit and who we sit with. We sit in organizations where digital transformation is happening, and so we're just one of a bunch of business functions who are looked at by the organization. And if we fall behind and we're not transforming the way the rest of the organization is, that actually is quite damaging on our reputation and our credibility, and how we're heard as an important partner in what the organization does. So that may be a unique aspect for in-house.
Okay. Yeah, if I may also follow up here, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm not speaking from the perspective of an advocate of legal technology, because it's commonsensical. Technology makes life easy. Technology makes our work as lawyers, makes us as lawyers to work smarter rather than working harder. But what do you see as being part of the biggest challenges you face in adopting, or law firms or legal departments face in modernizing and transforming towards use of legal technology?
Is that one back to me? Is it,
either you or Kajal, any of you.
I mean, I think you named adoption. I do think change management is just such an important part of the whole picture, and trying to accomplish any kind of digital transformation without planning for and thinking about and really setting yourself up to achieve change management in a really thoughtful way is the biggest challenge there is. We probably all have firsthand experience of not getting it right. So that's
okay. Thanks for that. So, okay, Kajal, you want to add more points to that? Or?
I was just going to say one thing. I think there's two points that come into mind that I've seen firsthand, and one is making sure you have infrastructure. Of course, technology requires the organization to adapt and have the infrastructure to manage that, and so there's that. And then the other one, I know we'll be talking about this later on today, is really just getting people to buy in. It's conceptually hard for people, especially folks who perhaps are used to taking notes with a pen and paper or dictating something to their assistant, to now be able to really shift the way and use the technology. So getting the resistance of people to trust the technology.
Yeah, thank you, Kajal. Now, let me turn to you, Julie, and I want to get your perspective on this because the emphasis is on adoption, incorporating new technology into legal practice. And of course, the COVID has made it very imperative for legal department law firms to look this way, and majority are looking that way now. For those who have not previously been using this legal technology, who now wants to start using new legal technology, what do you think should be the starting point? How do you start to incorporate new technology, legal technology, in your legal practice?
Thank you. So let me start by apologizing. I've turned off my video when I haven't been speaking, because my Wi-Fi just isn't that stable. So speaking of technology, you always have to rely on that. So, and I was thinking about answering the question as you asked the panelists earlier, and I would have probably only had one word for it, and it would be people. The challenges in doing it is people. So in answering this question, that's where I would begin as well. You really need to start by actually assessing the needs of the people that you're bringing the technology in for. At the end of the day, it's really people, process, then technology. If you don't understand where the pain points are, then there's not really much point in trying to overlay some new technology onto it. So before you decide whether technology is the right solution, what's really important is to understand the process and where the actual challenges are. That way, once you've ironed out the appropriate process, then it's easier to actually convince people that there's a really good reason to introduce technology and so on. Because I think, as has already been discussed, we know that's the biggest challenge for most people. It's the people not wanting to adopt change.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to convince the people first, because at the end of the day, they will be the one using the technology. They will be the one to take the move or initiate the move towards, the adoption of this technology. And that's very important, especially in the case of law firms where you have older generation of lawyers who are more kind of keen in doing things the way it has been historically done. So I think the starting point will be kind of trying to get these people or lawyers to see that there are easy and smarter way of doing things, rather than always insisting on the way it was being done. Tiana, you probably might have some more thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, people, process, and technology is like a buzz phrase, right? It's something that we use in e-discovery all the time. There's two aspects to it. There's the people who use the technology, but there is also the people who need to administer or who operate the technology. You can have the best tool, you can have the Ferrari, but if you don't know how to drive a stick shift, you will not be successful in getting that very expensive, very fast car down the street. And I think that there's a few points there. Is you're only as good as the people and processes that you have in place. So investment in those tools, those people, and training is going to be essential, because if you cannot operate the technology or you cannot operate it defensively, it's going to be very short-lived inside of anyone's practice. The other thing is there's often a hesitation to adopt technology that's unfamiliar. And, you know, Gideon, you mentioned that there's the older generation of lawyers, but the thing I don't think we realize, and the thing I'm familiar with seeing, is that, you know, you'll have first-year calls who are coming in who are also hesitant to use technology because they've been trained by somebody who was hesitant to use technology. And so we're perpetuating this fear of the, you know, e-discovery black box. And what we can do, and what I think is a really good model, is to pair, as you're working towards getting people comfortable, is to pair the technology with the manual process, so that you can then have them do their standard way, but also then demonstrate the efficiencies of the model. And a good example would be to, you know, a small linear review while also running Cal in the background. Okay, if you'd like to look at every document, that's fine, but I can then show you the efficiencies you could have gained and where we could have stopped the process. And Kajal, I saw you smile, because I, like, you know, this is, everybody has this. So if you're having hesitation with adoption of technology, one of the best things you can do is not force it on people, but instead do a soft introduction where you provide the technology side by side with the manual process and introduce it that way.
Thank you, Tiana. I think I like the Ferrari illustration. I like the Ferrari illustration you gave, and I also another important point you highlighted is that you know, the adoption problem is not just confined to the older generation of lawyers, but even the younger generation of lawyers. And I think I feel personal about that. As a law professor, I've always advocated for the need for law schools to take the initiative in exposing their law students to the use of technology or legal technology before they leave the law school, because these are like the generation that are tech savvy. If you expose them to legal technology while they are still in law school, when they go out there, they will probably serve as a force towards modernization of the profession, especially when it comes to use of legal technology.
And Gideon, I think that there's an appetite for it. So when I had the opportunity to speak in your class, one thing that surprised me was the number of people who reached out after on LinkedIn or by email, who followed up and said, hey, I'm envisioning a career going this direction. Can you give me insight? Or, hey, you said this thing about the EDRM. Can you explain what that means? And I loved that, because I thought there was people who all of a sudden had this, like, you know, thirst for learning a little bit more about e-discovery, and who were going to enter practice just that much more informed.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, let me just say this. Tiana has been a regular guest in my class in University of Calgary, and she has been a very one of the speakers I've been using to kind of get my students exposed to legal technology. I believe it's very important for them to be exposed at this very early stage. And I really do appreciate the help from Tiana and the interest these students show, you know, with regards to use of technology. And now I will want to turn to you this time, Jolie. And if I may ask, so how can you set up a transformation project for success? If law firm now choose, okay, we're gonna transform to innovate, to use this technology, of course, probably the starting point will be, you know, designing a transformation technology. How do you design that to succeed? Or how do you set up a transformation project to succeed in terms of tech investment?
So I guess we talked about people, process, and technology. So I would start there again, right? I think that what's really important is seeking input from stakeholders. And I really like the way Tiana put it as well. It's not just the users, but it's also the administrators. So you really do need a lot of people who need to sort of be all part of that project. So the importance of seeking input from all of these people, and then having champions who have the sort of appropriate influence, that will, again, really, really help in the project. Lastly, I would say, and I don't know, I would say this in this order, I think it's critical that there is leadership. I think if you have leadership that's behind the kind of transformation you're trying to instill, that's going to really be the difference between success and failure. The truth of the matter is, we talk about getting buy-in. You need to have all of these people. Again, in larger teams in particular, I think people really want to see that their leaders are supporting this, that they think that transformation is worthwhile, rather than a more grassroots approach. I think you can try the grassroots approach, but in my experience, I think you need it from both top down and bottom up, if you will.
Thank you, Jolie. I mean, in addition to what you just said, Jolie, I'm also going to invite maybe additional ideas on this from Elizabeth and Kajal. But before I do that, let me, just for the purpose of the audience, let me quickly note that for the audience attending, please, if you have any question with regards to the issue we're discussing or some other issues relating to law, technology and innovation, please feel free to leave your question at the chat box. In the course of the moderation, I may probably be asking the audience, the panelists, your question, or at the end of the presentation, then we can take the question. So please feel free to leave a question on the chat box. So let me come over, turn now to you, Libby. Transformation project for success. What do you say about that?
So I think one hard lesson I learned in my matter management project was that, while lawyers who I think are super duper awesome smart, they don't have all the skills, and there are other skills and other disciplines that are really important to doing things like projects, like project management discipline, and having people who are really accomplished and knowledgeable at the table and helping, and people that really understand technology, and having all those people work together, and even change management, that's a discipline, and having people with real professional expertise on a big project is really important. It seems like we could do it all through logic and by planning, but we need to recognize the expertise that comes from our other partners.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Kajal.
Yeah, so I agree with what everyone has said. And I mean, from the, I think what Tiana said especially resonates very well, because I think I was probably one of the people that she's dealt with who had that fear, the idea of completely giving up control for something that we historically have so much, like for example, document production, we have eyes on and we have people looking at everything, and to turn that over to just technology was a very hard shift in the way I was thinking. And I think I'm relatively progressive. So, for some of my other partners or our clients, for them to be able to trust the process is a big sell. And so having easing us in as the users, as Tiana has suggested, and so that we have that comfort, building up that comfort so that incrementally we get where we need to be, and then we can then, show the clients where that goes, I think it's very helpful. And I think that's it. I think it's getting the buy-in from the people so they've got comfortable, and so they're comfortable.
Thank you, Kajal. So now when we talk about transformation project, of course, tech investment is not cheap. Legal technology is not cheap. They are expensive. They are cost-intensive expenditure for law firms or legal departments, adopting or transforming. I mean, from your experiences, but I'm throwing this question open to everyone. Maybe if you can share some success, failure, or lessons you've learned that you want to share with the participants when it comes to, transformation projects.
I'll start. I can give the example of, one of our most successful projects while I was at BMO was introducing e-discovery internally. We revamped the entire process of how we managed it. We introduced technology to help with review, and a number of different things. It was a tremendous success in lots of ways because there were significant savings, and I think to Tiana's point earlier, really increase the defensibility of our own practices and made sure that we were working very effectively with our external counsel. So all tremendously good things. But there were also some really hard lessons. And some of the lessons learned was that trying to introduce technology into a relatively, a pretty complex infrastructure that already exists, such as within banks. So, I mean, just that, it took us, maybe a year or two longer than we thought it was going to. And I think you're going to hear Libby talking about introducing matter management, it's exactly the same. It's harder to do that kind of integration than it seems. And really the lesson I learned in some ways is that technology sometimes moves so fast that you kind of want to be careful not necessarily to fully invest in one technology. Sometimes there's tremendous value keeping your options open, if I can put it that way, where particularly in the e-discovery world, if you will, where there are so many different ways that and different vendors that might support different uses. So depending upon the complexity of your case or how things have to go, you may actually do well by developing different partnerships, if you will, with different vendors so that you have that those options, right? So you know what, I would probably never call that a failure because we did incredibly well by it. We saved really literally millions of dollars. But on the other hand, there is, part of my brain said, 5, 6, 7 years into it, when our technology was starting to age, then I realized that, a different way of approaching it, offered us more flexibility. So that's really, an example of both success and some lessons.
Thank you, Jolie. Now, another question I'll probably want to get your thoughts on, and I'm going to be asking this from the perspective of, law firm and legal departments in corporations. When it comes to adoption of legal technology, whether in law firm or legal departments, what do you think, which of these two departments do you think is more open to adoption of this technology? Is it the law firm or is it the, I'm not setting up I'm not setting up a fight between the legal practitioner and the and the in-house counsel, but when it comes to adoption of legal technology, do you think it's much easier as an in-house counsel convincing, the corporation or the department or organization when it comes to adoption of this technology, or the lawyers in the law firm? Just kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
I can start.
Please.
So, I mean, I don't think it's easy for any lawyer, honestly, to change. Although I think we probably all would say some are way better than others. We've got some people that are immediately champions and are excited and keen to do it, and then you got your people that are always going to drag their feet. And we probably have the same composition of them, unless some people have younger people, and then those are better. But that is not an absolute statement, of course. But the one thing that I think might be easier in-house, and this is a theory that I'll throw out there and hear what you say back, but in-house, what we have is like a hierarchy structure. So when we rolled out our system, I had a general counsel, which as Jolie and others pointed out, you need that leadership. I did have that. I had somebody who would say, I mandate that you do this, and I will be looking at the KPIs, and it will affect your performance review. And I wonder if that's not easier to do in-house than it is at law firms. I could be wrong, but.
Okay, Kajal.
Yeah. So I think I'm fortunate. I've only ever been with the exception of my article with JSS, and so I have the benefit of having a firm that's local. We don't have offices in Toronto, or so we make the decisions in Calgary. We have, of course, we have a technology committee, and it's composed of those folks in the firm that really are the ones who are champions for technology, and so they kind of call the shots. We may give them suggestions, but they are quite forward thinking, and so from that perspective, it's I think I've had probably an easier time than I suspect is the case in some other firms. But I think even then, like even if the firm adopts a form of technology, whether it's used is a whole nother question, because we may have some of the best technology. Some of our lawyers just simply may not use it. They may not be comfortable. Some of our more senior partners may say, well, that's fine. You know, the associates or the more junior partners can figure it out and use it. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And that is a struggle. And, you know, there's a lot of pushback. I know some of our key technology people are, you know, will say, well, nope, we're phasing this out. So the use of this method of doing something is disappearing in 6 months. So get yourself familiar with this new process. Otherwise, your old process isn't there. And it's pushing people's comfort limits. But I think that's right. I don't suspect it's easier in one institution versus another. I just think that you're going to have that same composition of people, and you have to adapt to be able to get, you know, to get folks comfortable with it.
Thank you. So let me just quickly observe, that there are questions coming in from the audience. Please keep the question coming, and I'm going to be throwing the question to the panelists momentarily. So please keep it up. And let me turn to you now, Tiana. Of course, we've always been talking about legal technology. There is also emphasis on, law firms adopting AI or artificial intelligence in their practice. Now, these two terms are often used either interchangeably or alternatively. I would just kind of want to get your thoughts for the purpose of, for the benefit of the audience. Is there any difference between these two terms, legal technology and artificial intelligence? And if there is, please, can you let us know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think e-discovery loves jargon. So it is not surprising that we have all these terms, especially that are used interchangeably. So legal tech is actually like the application of software, of process, of technology by legal teams to facilitate the work that they're doing to, make process improvements. AI is actually a technology that stimulates, human thinking, human intelligence by computer systems. So, legal tech doesn't exist necessarily without AI, but AI isn't anywhere unique to the legal industry. Google, everything when you're shopping on Amazon and it, tells you what you would like to purchase next, and you go ahead and click the add to cart button. That is all AI. But legal tech itself is how do we incorporate these types of technology, the processes that support those types of technology into legal practice by legal teams in order to make sure that we're optimizing work, keeping process clear and straight and defensible while also maximizing, cost savings for clients and for the firms.
Yeah. Now, if I may follow up with you on that, Tiana, because you have great deal of experience in e-discovery and document review. In the course of your work in this area, have you had to use AI technology, and what results, if any, have you learned from your experience in the adoption of this technology in the course of your work in e-discovery and document review?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few technologies that we use on a regular basis that I've used with, some of the people on this panel. And for me, the most effective use that I've had recently, and I think it's quite interesting, was using a technology that does pattern analysis. So we use NextLP on an internal investigation. And everybody knows that one of the purposes of document review is to find that needle in a haystack. But the haystack is very, very big, and the haystack is not getting smaller. So using these technologies, you can hopefully at least segregate, your haystacks into, likely contains a needle or does not contain a needle at all. And for me, the use of NextLP and that type of AI that looks for anomalies, that looks for trends in data, was particularly effective for internal investigation because it allows you to look at things like who was talking to who outside of business hours. What were the words that they were talking about? What were the patterns of language? And I think that type of AI, that type of pattern recognition and anomaly detection, AI, does particularly well when you don't know what you're looking for. You know, in some litigation matters, you have a clear understanding of what the issues are, you have a clear understanding of the documents you expect to find. But there's also those types of matters where you know something is not right, but you don't really know what you're looking for or where to go. And so for me, I really love that, and I like kind of promoting that alternate thinking. You know, AI in legal tech isn't just using tar. It's also these kinds of tools that you can use to dig and tools that you can use to bring things to light that you couldn't otherwise have found, especially by traditional means like search terms.
Yeah, good point. Now, I recall earlier, I think Kajal said that I think a law firm or something like that have worked with Epic on something, I mean, on e-discovery or something related. I can't remember exact word Kajal used. But Kajal, let me turn to you now, maybe as a client of Epic. Can you maybe probably share your experience with regards to, you know, use of technology by Epic in providing services to your law firm? What has been your experience from a client perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, as far as I'm concerned, it's been revolutionary. You know, in a lot of our files, especially when you're dealing with, for example, construction disputes where the project may have been going on for 10, 15 years and perhaps the whole project is being criticized by the other side. And so your client has decades of communications that we are dealing with, and trying to filter that down to figure out what the relevant documents are. I mean, this is something that takes months, if not years, if you were doing it manually. It's almost impossible. And so we worked with Tiana and the folks at Epic on a number of those types of files, and being able to use the technology to almost just create like this funnel where we're able to keep layering all the technology on their recommendation, because this is something that, you know, for the first few ones, I was completely in Tiana's hands, and I was like, you tell me, like, you teach me, what can we use? How do we use it? What does it? And so then because I then have to, you know, get buy-in from the client. I have to then say, okay, this is how we're going to do it, because for the client, so, you know, Tiana has to explain it to me in a way that I get it, and then I can now sell it to the client. So it's really important, that communication that we had. But layering all of the available technology on top of each other in order to be able to provide a means to get the end product, it's honestly, like, I can't speak highly enough of it, because it has completely revolutionized the way we are working in our firm. And so and, you know, the technology that Tiana just spoke about, you know, that is something that we've been interested in her and I've spoken about before, because depending on the file, you can tailor, the technology can be tailored to so you can, if you're looking for the needle in the haystack, or you're just doing more traditional document production, being able to customize the technology to deliver to the client's needs, and the cost savings, it's incredible. You know, you are, of course, our lawyers usually, you know, typically charge an hourly rate. If you're able to minimize or that time expenditure that lawyers are charging their clients, and using this technology, so you're cutting down hundreds of hours of potential manual review time. I mean, it's great, because we're then those objectives I spoke about earlier, delivering your clients the best product and the best service at the most cost-effective means. You're able to meet those two synergies in a really an effective way. So I think it's fabulous, and I think for any lawyer coming up, you learn it, know it, because that's what firms are looking for. You know, I'm sure Libby and Jolie can speak to that as well, that's something that's really attractive for employers, to see that you're comfortable with it, and you can sink your teeth right into it.
Well, and I think one of Kajal's files was actually a really good example of when technology didn't spit out the results that we thought it would, and we ended up needing to pivot. And this is where people, process, and technology became really, really important. So we were on a road, and all of the signs pointed to this being the correct road to be on. However, when we got to the first T intersection, it turned out that we should not, in fact, turn right when that was our plan. So if you, as an up-and-coming lawyer, can understand and learn these technologies, then you can partner with your firm, you can partner with vendors to identify when pivot points have to happen, because they will happen. And it doesn't mean there was anything wrong. It just means that sometimes the content of the data doesn't perform the same way you expected. And I think about that, and I think about how important it is that people get comfortable with realizing something isn't going the way you want and making a choice, making a pivot, because you do that in legal practice all the time. If a document comes up that, talks about an issue you haven't yet, had on your radar, you don't simply ignore it and set it aside. You pivot, you look at a new strategy, you involve that. And technology is no different. So making sure that you're informed on how this works, making sure you're trained on how it works, means that you can be part of the solution. And I think that that provides even more power to people coming up through the e-discovery ranks, but through the firms specifically. And I think that that's a really good advantage you can give yourself.
Okay, we ran out of time. So
I wish I had the opportunity to work with you, Kajal, when I was at BMO, because we found that in so many instances, the resistance wasn't just from our internal folks. There was also with with external counsel, who just struggled to figure out that it was really important to their clients, being us, to in fact
Okay, thanks, Jolie. We lost you along the way, but I think we have you back now. So okay, so let me quickly move. I mean, let's situate this discussion now, at least within the context of our audience, because I believe most of the audience we have in here are from the Global Lawyers Canada, and these are like basically international trained lawyers. And I love the fact Kajal talked about before, skills and being able to make yourself marketable to the law firm. And one thing you all panelists here share in common is the fact that you've all had a very successful career in legal tech, whether as a practicing lawyer, as in-house counsel, or as service provider. And our audience are basically looking for, opportunity to exercise their skill and be, have a successful career too, like the panels we have here. So the question I want to ask is, especially with particular reference to members of this Global GLC, what opportunities are career paths are open to these international trained lawyers in the field of legal tech or legal technology in Canada? So, I'm throwing this question open to everyone, so anyone can jump in.
I think it's almost infinite in that I think it's an exciting time to be, I think, in the legal industry, because there are these developments in the industry changes happening that are going to require people with knowledge and familiarity with technology. But I also think there's opportunity to create your own opportunities to some degree, because it's just everything's changing so fast. So I think the world is changing, and what it looks like in a year or in 5 years is going to be entirely different again from what it looks like today.
Thank you, Libby.
I couldn't agree more with with Libby. I'm gonna leave my video off in case it really.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
For legal tech, for example, that would be a great place for young lawyers as well, new lawyers. There are career paths in, specialists like the e-discovery field that we've been talking about, but in other areas as well, even legal ops administration, that sort of thing. There are also so many new models coming up, enabling people to work remotely, for example. There are firms that are now set up specifically to support all of these different paths. So I think I agree with Libby. It's a really exciting time. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom out there as well about how scary it is, people launching into a new career, during the pandemic, and we're not out of it yet. But I really think there are really different paths that I think previously wasn't there. People who can code and can understand the law are going to be in high demand.
Okay, talking about people who can code, there's a question here. Let me quickly bring in this question. It's from Ketapal Ayush. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. He said, the question was, will it be more beneficial to have coder cum lawyer to be a part of development of technology, since they will code better to improve the adaptability? Or will it be a waste of energy, since the profession wouldn't be able to specialize, since the professional wouldn't be able to specialize in one field? Essentially, question is, which is more probable scenario in this case? Master of all, jack of none, or master of all, jack of one? That was the question from Ayush.
I mean, I don't know if I can answer it in exactly the way it was framed, but you know,
Okay.
I think if you're passionate about coding and you're passionate about the law, and you build out both of those skills, I imagine you're going to be pretty marketable. And I think that the idea that somebody could actually help develop technology with a full knowledge and an awareness of what the delivery of legal services is all about and what's involved and some of the nuances, I think you'd be hard to go wrong on that path.
Yeah, and I second that. Some of my favorite technologies come from people who were in private practice, who were so frustrated by the fact that they had to do X, Y, and Z every single day, and it took 3 hours. And so they actually, you know, fell off of the legal practice and went and designed technology to do the thing that was the most painful for them. So I think that if you have a passion for it, and if you see a flaw with the system or with the manual process, there's either a technology company you can join, or there is a, you know, an opportunity for creativity to come out, because there's no way that there is one lawyer in the entire world or the entire country who has that problem and no one else. So I mean, I think that, you know, being a master of one particular area is going to be a focal point that is successful. I do not think that there'll be as much success specifically in like the coder kind of mentality of trying to do it all. I think you have to focus, because technologies that try to do it all tend to not do anything very well.
Okay, thanks, Tina. Let's quickly take another question. This one is from John Aslett. Which platforms or program do you use to assist legal practice? I don't know what you mean by assist legal practice, but because I believe legal practice is a very broad field. But can anybody throw in any thoughts on that? Platform or programs you use to assist maybe in legal practice?
I mean, for in-house, you know, I think there's types of systems that, and there's surveys actually, like you can go to Clock or you can go to the ACC, and there's sort of surveys that talk about the kinds of technologies that are used in-house, like matter management, like e-billing, like document management, like e-discovery. So if that's what the question's about, it's actually easy to find that on the internet too. You can look at what platforms are typically used, certainly in-house, and probably the same goes true for law firm.
Okay. Another question is from Funbi S. This one is for you, Tiana. Are there known platforms that Tiana can suggest to get tech expertise outside the context of a law firm or corporation?
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one, because all of these technologies, you know, they don't tend to sell one single license to one single individual as a standard practice. But what I would say is there is a lot of phenomenal resources through things like ACEDS, EDRM, and Sedona Canada that guide an understanding of the technology from the legal practice side that can then be used to like foster application ideas for how this kind of technology could work. Any of the standard technologies that you see in e-discovery specifically, but also in legal technology general, they're difficult to access in that context as an individual who wants to learn more. But all of these technologies are accessible through things like demos. They all have training and certifications that you can access. An example is Reveal, and BrainSpace actually just offered a month of free certifications for any of their products for anybody who registered. So I think that if it was me, I would be looking for those kinds of opportunities. I would Google, you know, the most common technologies that are used, and I would look for things like their training materials, like their certifications, and see if there was a way to get involved in that way, because you can't always get your hands in the technology without, you know, more of a either inside a firm, corporation, or vendor.
Yeah, thanks for the answer, Tiana. And I think there's also, I mean, there are many opportunities online, courses online, some were as close as being free. I know for sure Electronic Discovery Institute, EDI, though based in US, offer like a $1 certification on e-discovery. And that's $1 US. I think it can't get as cheaper as that. So those are also some, avenues that you can use to acquire some basic knowledge in terms of in areas like e-discovery. There's another question here quickly from Angad Baby. How do you obtain buy-in from other lawyers and clients for introducing technology and automated methods?
I think you hit them over the head. That's usually I find to be fairly effective. No, but that's also not it. Typically, one of the most effective ways that I have found with either end clients or law firms who are communicating to their end client is putting things in terms that they understand, which tends to be money. Money or efficiency or time or anything like that is a fantastic starting point for how you would go about getting buy-in. Because once you are there and once you see like the net impact and the gain you have, it is harder to stand there and resist. You may still get resistance, but I think that if you can demonstrate those types of, you know, quantifiable metrics, that will get you a long way towards the finish line of implementing some type of technology.
Okay, so let's take the last two questions. We have like 3 minutes to go, so we may not be able to take more questions. So one question is from an anonymous attendee who asked, what data or KPI do you analyze within your law firm? And then there is another question from Suruchi. What is the career progression like in the field of e-discovery or legal technology in general? So the first question is on what data or KPI do you analyze within your law firm? Oh, sorry, within your firm.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of data, I mean, I guess we're talking about client data, you know, a KPI like, you know, the key performance indicators. I'm not sure how that particularly translates over directly, but I think that in terms of how you analyze the data that comes in. I mean, I suspect, again, Elizabeth and Jolie probably have very different responses. From a litigation firm, the data we're getting from our clients, of course, are relevant to the dispute and issue. And so our goal, the way the data is analyzed is directly in relation to the issues in dispute. And so we have to formulate that. And that's, you know, whether it's search terms or as Deanna said, you know, concepts that we're stringing together in order to search, you know, that's the data performance, like those are the indicators we're using in order to identify the documents we need for the dispute. And so from a litigation perspective, that's really how we're using, you know, e-discovery and those types of technology. Of course, we also have, you know, internal systems for document management internally. And so yeah, that's a bit different and not something I think that is probably what the person answering or asking the question was indicating. But yeah, I think that's really it. It's driven by the dispute and what the issues are.
Thanks, Kajal. And of course, the next question from Soruchi talks about career progression. What's career progression like in e-discovery or legal technology in general?
I don't know if I suspect Libby or Jolie or Tiana are probably better situated to answer that question than I am, because for us, I mean, if you have that experience coming into a firm, you're an asset to our clients and you're an asset to the firm. So it's certainly something that is very helpful from a selling the services to our clients.
I will just say that I think there really is a career. So by the time I left BMO, I had a team of almost 30 people. And I think Libby has a really large team as well at this point, because I think more and more the kind of specialists that you need who can manage the technology as well as, how to help this go forward. So I include in that, process improvement, I include in that e-discovery folks, and I include in that, administrators, reporting, board reporting, all sorts of things. I think more and more, that's what we talked about earlier. I think that there really is that career progression if that's what you're looking for.
Thank you so much, Jolie. So there's no doubt about it. Legal technology, adoption of legal technology is dramatically improving. There will continue to be opportunities in this field. So for GLC members who are still contemplating a career in legal technology, there is no better time to jump into the bandwagon or to join the train than now. Take time to acquire the competence, legal technology competence. And this is one area of legal practice that is very prospective. It's an area you can build a successful career on. Thank you so very much to the participants for taking time to join us. And also, I want to thank the panelists, Elizabeth, Kajal, Tiana, and Jolie, for taking time, to attend this event, and also for sharing your wealth of experience in legal technology with us. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure moderating this and, with you all today. So I will now turn over to Kenny Okunola, I believe, or is it Dio? So for concluding.
Yeah, thanks, Gideon. Thanks a lot, Gideon. This has been a very insightful discussion. Special thanks, of course, to our speakers today for taking the time out of their busy schedules. I know everyone is in different parts of the world right now. If there's anything that the pandemic has taught us, it's that the practice of law can be done from anywhere in the world. And organizations have been forced to adapt and adopt legal technologies in a record time. Thanks, Tiana, Libby, Kajal, and Jolie. Thanks for joining us today. We had over 100 registered participants for these events, and we've started receiving positive feedback regarding the discussion today already. I also like to appreciate our moderator, Professor Gideon Christian. We are grateful to you for accepting to moderate this discussion today and also contributing to the discussion from your perspective. Special appreciation also goes to the planning team, Dio, Kene, Anu, Kimberly, Siobhan from the BC team. Thanks for working on the BC accreditation. And also the team from EPIC, Kevin, Shannon, Kaitrona. Kaitrona sends a lot of emails. When I wake up to Kaitrona's emails, I know something is going down. She has been very instrumental in putting this event together. To all our attendees, thank you for joining us today. We hope you've learned, a great deal. And if we were unable to answer all of your questions, we do hope that we get other opportunities in the future to chat about them. On behalf of the Board of Global Lawyers of Canada, I'd like to say thank you to everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye for now.
Thank you.